before I go back into asking a bunch of questions, and I love that I'm sitting next to you, is that all right? We cool? All right. Tell me if I shouldn't touch you, all right? Because, you know, I'm a touchy-feely person. Am I okay if I touch you?
It's okay.
It's okay. All right. I just needed your permission. That's good. How old were you, Daniel, when you were diagnosed? What were your symptoms that you were going through in school and through life that made you feel something was different, but you didn't know why?
Okay. First of all, I don't know how I'm supposed to follow that.
No, you can.
So actually, my mother had me diagnosed, but she didn't tell me the results of said diagnosis. So for a very long time, I wasn't really aware that anything was off, except for the fact that, and of course, I don't talk about this a whole lot. So in school, I did not do very well early on. We're talking first grade. In fact, I failed the first grade. And then I had to go to summer school. I did not do well there. And then I went and I passed the first grade. And then I went to the second grade and I had the repeat of the same thing, right? So now I am actually 2 grades behind. It wasn't until I'll tell you what my mother did do. She did take me to a small private school, a small Christian school. And while I was there were smaller classes. There were people who were willing to work with me. I wasn't in there with a whole lot. And all the kids that were cool were the kids that were they were doing well, right? Which is a motivation to want to do well, right? You want to fit in with everybody else. So went to the school. That's actually where I met Shaquilla and Chuck, and I was in that school. It was there that I think a couple of things happened. Number one, we had these Bible classes where we had to memorize scripture. And it was in the memorization of scripture. You see, I have a mild case of dyslexia, so sometimes I may see, I don't want to say I see things out of sequence, but because I might write down, I have to remember the number that you put in. You give me a sequence of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, I might skip 4 in my head. Now I know to remember to go back and put 4 in, right? And so these are things that I kind of taught myself, but I do think that having to memorize the Bible verses and having to do things like that taught me little tips and tricks that allowed me to kind of, just function. But when you are 2 grades behind, and even now it just sounds, it's not the greatest thing. When you're in a situation like that and you have people who are telling you that you're not smart, you face a number of struggles. You face bullying, you face people just looking at you a certain way, and you kind of try and hide it in plain sight. But to answer your question without going through my entire story, I would say that it was then that I realized that something was a little different and something was a little off, and the help was few and far in between.
What do you want the people in this audience to be aware of when you are diagnosed as different?
I think,
And I'm using the word different purposefully, right?
Right.
Because I don't want to use the term as strange or special ed or,
right.
Those, I think we need to use terms that are warm and comforting, enveloping, making people feel like this is a part of life in general, right? So what do you want to say to people about this?
I think flexibility is important. I think you have to be flexible. I think more importantly, especially when you're dealing with, if you have a child that is dealing with the discomfort of being different, right? You have to be flexible. You can't, I believe that when I was a kid, it was really important, and in times past, it was really important for people to try to take a square peg and stick it in a round hole no matter what. And if you didn't, you got discarded, you got thrown off some ways and just labeled. I think that what's important is you have to redefine success, right? You redefine success. I have 6 kids, and in the 6 kids that we have, my wife and I have, there are two that struggle. I have one that struggles with dysgraphia, ADHD, and a little anxiety. I have another one who's too young to diagnose, but we already know what the signs are. I know that this is something that I'm going to be dealing with, not just for myself, but for them. Because that was another thing, the ADHD, I forgot to mention that, sorry, I kind of got off track.
This is all a part of the autism wheel, correct? Then guess who's on the autism wheel?
Right. So I will say that I'm thankful for them because they've taught me that you have to redefine your success, right? And I want them to be the best people they're supposed to be, and they don't have to be like everybody else. And so when we get a win, we chalk that up. We get a win, you know. And I think that just trying to, the desire for them to be like everybody else is no longer there, right? I want them to be like them.
Yeah. Katherine, as a mom, when you first understood that something was different, what were the emotions that ran through your head? Because I want to see if anybody identifies with that in this room. What were the things you thought?
So, I think first, I was scared. I was nervous. I didn't know what all of this would mean, what I would have to do, you know, to get my son, you know, the help that he was so desperately need early on in his life. I was paralyzed by fear. Initially, I didn't want to talk about it. I didn't know if anyone else, you know, was going through this, and just being in the position that I'm in, I really didn't want to talk about it because you try as much as you can to protect your children from any and everything that may cause them harm. And that's even sometimes the outside feelings of others, right? You got to keep your children and yourself, your family, protected and covered at all times, no matter what you do. So really the initial feelings were fear, just nervous about what's next, how I get help. And I even remember, and I have to say this, Shaquilla would talk to me because I mentioned it to her. And she would talk to me and say, well, you should be doing this, and you know, you should be doing that. And I would never follow up because I was paralyzed by fear. So when you said flexibility, for me, it was more than just being flexible, it's been sacrifice. Because the work that we do, that so many of us do, right, is 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. And it's unforgiving and it's unrelenting. But I made a conscious choice last year that no longer would any appointment, any meeting, any hearing, any event come in between me and my ability to be there for my children. And of course that includes my son. So I drop them off at school in the morning, and when we're in the car, we read books. And I pick them up after school. My husband picks up my daughter, I pick up my son, and we read books in the car. This particular summer, I fought for my son to go to a reading camp that would specifically address his academic needs. Because guess what? The year that he was diagnosed with dyslexia, a whole half of the year he didn't have speech therapy. So he had speech therapy for 6 months. The other 6 months, no speech therapy. So I knew he needed to be in a place over the summer that could help build up his skills and his competency so he could get ready for 3rd grade. And you have no idea just how impactful what you just said has been to me. Seeing you thriving and speaking on the panel and talking about your life and your children, and how you were able to, you know, just thrive after what you went through early on in your educational experience. I literally was like fighting back tears initially, because for me, hearing you gives me hope that one day my son can do the same thing. So literally, I think it was fear, but it's the sacrifice that I have to make and that I'm going to make. And some days I come home and I'm so tired. I'm so tired because I have to work. I have to go to all the community events and functions and be there for our constituents, respond to constituent cases and concerns. go to all the hearings in the council sessions, make sure they get to school and pick them up. So guess what? No matter what's happening in the city of Philadelphia, if something is tumbling down at 3:15, I gotta go. I gotta go. And because now my son is in extracurricular, because my husband wants him to be in organized sports, which has been great, right? But now we have to read in the car, okay? So every day before we leave the house, I tell him bring 2 books. And let me tell you a strategy. I just have to share this strategy that we learned just this summer. And we learned this because we went to a different educational environment. And I will say it was outside of the city. It was smaller. It was only about maybe 5 kids in the class. Very good school for children who have dyslexia. And they taught us within the first week of being in the summer camp, allow your child to read books that they are comfortable reading. So even though my son is in 3rd grade, he's still very comfortable reading at level 1. So now our library at home, we parsed out all the level 1 books. And he gets out the level 1 books, and because he's comfortable reading, you build their confidence in reading. And I even heard you say that you have to memorize things. So that's what my son does. He does the same thing. So he may read 1 book 5 times, right? And you may not want to hear that book again, right? But I'm loving that book. You know, every time I hear that book, it's the first time I heard it as far as I'm concerned, because he enjoys reading it. So the strategy that we learned is you read to them first on a level that they are comfortable with. Then you have them read the same material back to you. And then you have them read that material a 3rd time to someone else in the family. And that was something we learned this summer just because we sacrificed and advocated for our son to be in the special summer camp. So flexibility, but also sacrifice. Yes. Because I'm going to do whatever I have to do to make sure my son gets what he needs, but really what he deserves. Yes. And a lot of times when you're in a public school environment, kids are not diagnosed initially. I had to push for my son to be diagnosed because even though I didn't really know what dyslexia was, I knew something wasn't gelling. It wasn't all coming together. And now that we have the diagnosis, now I'm trying to just immerse myself in everything I can do to learn about it and make sure I'm doing everything that I can in my wherewithal to make sure he's good. So that's the word I would use is sacrifice.
You know what I'm learning from both of you is that courage is the thing that we need the most. Because when we walk in our courage and we don't allow people to make us hide in fear, then we're able to do things for our children that are absolutely necessary. You're going to make me go home and hug my daughter-in-law. You know, they had twins, and, you know, the twins were learning at a different pace, both of them. Girl a little different from the boy. And she started getting the services early. So now they're both talking and running around. But she was short to put them in pre-K, all of that, so that they would be okay. I'm coming to you, King Jarman. Give me 1 second. What's your name, sir?
My name is Jared Barron.
And you are?
Journey's father. Yes.
How old was Journey when he was diagnosed?
So 3 years old, he was officially diagnosed, but about 2 years, about 2.5, we started getting services from early intervention, and they would come out to the house and work with him.
And so what were you seeing, experiencing that made you decide at 2.5 to get him early intervention?
Honestly, it was my best friend came to me. I worked overnight, and I didn't know anything. Journey's my first child. Mm-hmm. And so there, everything seemed normal to me. Journey was very nonverbal. He did not speak at all. But I didn't know. I didn't know. It was my first child. And so they would ask questions. We were like, well, Journey's not talking. So people thought he was deaf. There were so many rumors in the family. And I'm like, he's not deaf. He's not crazy. He's not all of this stuff. Like, I just didn't know what to label it. And my friend came to me late at night. I was working at Drexel University. She came. It was about 2 o'clock in the morning. She said, it's an emergency. I just got to come talk to you. I said, what is going on? She said, something's wrong. He's not talking. Because we had children at the same age. She said he's not talking, he's not doing this. Here is, but she came with a solution. She just said, here is a pamphlet to the program that I wound up calling and reaching out to. And I was, like you said, afraid to take it to my family because I was just like, what? Everybody just didn't want to think about autism. They didn't want to think about that. And so we called the services. They came out, they started working with Journey, and then they said, yeah, so he's somewhere on his spectrum, on his will. And then they referred me to Elwin, and that's when he turned 3, he was able to get the appropriate diagnosis. But honestly, I did not know. They would say, well, how does he communicate? I'm like, Journey gets what he wants. He gets up and he goes to the kitchen, makes his bowl of cereal. Don't all kids do this? Like, and they're like, how does he tell you he's hungry? He doesn't. He just eats. Like,
so was he making sounds at all, or was he?
Oh, he would definitely. So his thing at age 1, he would watch Cars. Journey, you remember any of your favorite ones? Toy Story or Toy Story 3? How to Train Your Dragon. So he would Lion King. So he would watch these, and he would just randomly spurt out words and repeat it back, and people would be like, what is he saying? And after a while, I started recognizing some of the language. I'm like, oh, he's repeating the entire script of Cars. The entire script, but wouldn't say hello, Dad, but would repeat the entire script of Cars. And so that's what I would hear, and it would just come out randomly and just like in spurts and kind of yelling. And he still has his twitches. We often have to say, Journey, keep it down. Journey, keep it down. But yeah, it was that. And one thing I want to add to what you said, and what you said, brother, I realized, after I got that diagnosis, me and Journey, we just sat in the park, and I just sat there and I cried because I didn't know what to do. I didn't know where to go, who to turn to. And later on, I just realized, because when he did start to read, when he did start to write, when those things started happening, I remember we were just looking through a book, and I was like, Journey, point to the apple, and he finally did. I just broke out and bust out in tears.
How old was he when he pointed to the apple?
3.
Yeah.
This all happened, and I realized that we can't expect them to conform to our normal.
Yeah.
We have to conform to their norm.
There you go.
Meet them where they are at, and that's been my word ever since. Conform to his norm,
Yes.
and the rest will follow.
Thank you so much. And
We have to talk about in our communities how we, can't talk about this stuff. It's it's a shameful thing. We can't talk about it in church. We can't talk about this. We can't talk about that. And we hide so many things, and we carry our own visceral traumas onto our children as a direct result. But look at Journey. See how Journey and I were talking? We ain't need you for nothing. Nothing. We were fine. It is how we behave and when we, so Journey isn't special, Journey is just different, right? I remember introducing my husband to a friend of mine, and he held her hand, and he had like these little twitches, and it felt weird, and I could see that she was uncomfortable, but I couldn't tell her that he was, that he was different, right? But so unique. Unique, and he is unique as hell. We go. You gotta see us on Facebook. You must follow me on Facebook, right? You gotta. And so he built his first robot in the backyard at 10, and they thought something was wrong with him. So the way he was working through what was going on with him, and he stuttered. He stuttered bitterly and needed to get support. So when he talks about having 5 degrees today and doing all the things that he was doing, he said, I didn't want anybody to see me as this special ed person. Because quite frankly, even though he wasn't in the class with all the higher functioning people, he has 3 and 4 more degrees than most of those people. Right. And the way he thinks is different, right? So it's important. Now, King, it is so good to see you. Let me introduce you, right? King Jarman is 15 years old and for the past 5 years has been the proud owner of Kingdom Boxing Gym, the largest boxing gym in Philadelphia. And he also owns a juice bar, a vending machine business, and an event space. He is the youngest boxing gym owner in the world and the first autistic gym owner. He was 3 years old and nonverbal until he was 4. He began boxing at 8.
Hello everyone. My name is King Jarman. I'm the proud owner of King of Boxing Gym here in Frankfurt. Ever since I have owned the boxing gym, our team, along with the help of our many community partners, have had the pleasure of helping so many people in so many ways. Feeding the homeless, back to school giveaways, Mother's Day events for moms that have lost their children, making my gym a safe haven for kids, giving them a way to help them out and get them out the streets and become successful in their lives, you know? The boxing has helped me and so many others focus on something that can have a positive impact on their lives, especially their mental health, physical fitness, and confidence. Our partners with Concilio CU A3 has helped with my gym and my gym's mission. Our community had helped me as a young person in Philadelphia who has come to understand the value in helping and giving back to others in my community. Concilio serves Philadelphia, and I'm proud to become Concilio service in Philadelphia too.
King.
Thank you.
See what happens when you see children as children? See what happens when you don't see them in a deficit? But you find what is good inside of them? You must be mom.
Yes.
Child, speak on it. Tell us all the things you had done to get King to be the king that he is today.
Yes. Hello, everyone. My name is Nikki Dennis. I'm King's very proud mom. King was diagnosed with autism at 3 years old. I have an older son who's 10 years older than him, so I had already experienced a child going through typical developmental stages of life. So when I noticed King at about 1 year old, he was unable to make eye contact. I had a lot of difficulty reading books to him. We noticed that he wouldn't speak back to us. He wouldn't say, the typical terms that your normal first 1 year old would say, like mom, dad, eat, things like that. He didn't talk at all. And I too thought my son was deaf. I actually had his hearing tested twice and then paid out of pocket 2 additional times at a facility in New Jersey to have his hearing tested because I was convinced that he was deaf. Until I started to realize that I could say words like cookies and he would respond. Then that's when I realized he wasn't deaf. I kept arguing with his pediatrician throughout the 1 year old to 3 year old stage that something was wrong. The pediatrician kept trying to convince me that different children develop at different stages, and I'm telling him I'm already a mother. I'm also the oldest sibling of 5 siblings. Like, I've observed children go throughout the typical developmental stages, and something is not right. I just couldn't put my finger on it. And outside of the movie Rain Man, and another movie, I had never really experienced or acquainted myself with the condition of autism. So I didn't know what I was looking at. I just knew something wasn't right, and I couldn't put my finger on it. And at his 3-year checkup, I actually got into a huge argument with the pediatrician and the nurse, refused to leave the office until they helped me to understand what was going on with my son. He was 3 years old at the time. And they got a specialist from the main building to come over. We were at the pediatrician's office that day for 3.5 hours because I refused to leave. And they came over and they said, well, perhaps he should go through the process of being assessed. And I'm saying, assessed for what? And they kept reiterating they wasn't sure what was going on, but based on my my complaints and so forth, they felt like, he could go through the process of assessment. Now, this all occurred back in 2013. So at that time, there was a 24-month waiting list for, I'm sure other parents have experienced that. It was a 24-month waiting list for your child to be evaluated. And that was amongst all the facilities, CHOP, St. Christopher's, St. Christopher's, which is unfortunate because that hospital is in the middle of a war zone, literally, and they have no mental health department there at all whatsoever. You have children in that community suffering from PTSD and all kinds of, not just developmental conditions, but mental health crisis. And there's no mental health department at St. Christopher's. That's actually why I took them out of St. Christopher's, because I found that out. And they had no supports for any parents who have children with developmental delays or disorders. So that was another reason why we needed to leave. I visited every psychologist, the ones that my insurance covered and the ones my insurance did not cover, to try to get my son on an appointment list, to see a psychologist and begin the process of evaluation. I didn't have any success. The closest appointment time was about a year to a year and a half off. I refused to accept that. So then I went to several different facilities and I slipped $100 to each receptionist. This is the truth. I slipped $100 to each receptionist at the main desk. I said, let me tell you something. You can have this $100 on good faith, okay? I said, if somebody calls and cancels their appointment, if you call me from anywhere in the city, I can make it to this office in 30 minutes. If you give me 30 minutes, I will come. And a very nice girl named Tiffany at the Elwyn facility off of 40th and Market, she called me one day and she said, Miss Nikki, somebody just canceled. You got about 30 minutes to get here. I ran home, grabbed him, ran down there, and that's how we got on the list. And that was only 3 months after his doctor gave us the referral paperwork. Yes. But it's unfortunate because not everybody.
It wasn't just money.
It wasn't.
Because your advocacy work, but also your determination work.
Absolutely, absolutely. And separate from that, there's a lot of people that don't have the resources to do that. And that doesn't make them less deserving than me and my son. You know, I did what I had to do based on what I had available to me and my resources, but not everybody has that, you know. Not everybody even has the resources to be able to take off from work and visit a bunch of different offices and hand out $100 bills to people that they don't even know if they're actually going to call them. I didn't know if these administrative assistants and receptionists were going to call me, but I was working on faith. And thankfully, in 3 months, he got an appointment. We went through a 6-week process of evaluation where he was being evaluated by behavioral therapists, speech therapists, occupational therapists, psychologist, so forth, and then he was diagnosed with autism. My then spouse, his father, had the same reaction as you. He broke down. But I think that was largely in part because he was in complete denial that anything was going on with our son. So in addition to me combating with doctors, I had to combat in my household with my spouse, convincing him that something is not right. And he's telling me, our son is fine. He got 10 fingers, 10 toes. He's a beautiful kid. Nothing is wrong with him. And I'm arguing something is wrong. And I'm going to do whatever I got to do to figure out what's wrong. So when they gave us the diagnosis, he had your reaction. Me, I didn't, because I've been crying my tears for 3 years. I was just, now that I know what I'm dealing with, I'm ready to fight. I'm ready to fight. So I got my son enrolled at SPEN in the Northeast on Jarman Road. I put myself back in school. I'm an accountant, so I already have advanced degrees and so forth, but I put myself back in classes at community college for psychology and early child development. I educated myself as much as possible. I took off from work one day every single month and spent an entire day in a classroom in his school volunteering so I can observe other autistic children and how they behave. And I went to work. Our health insurance at the time, I had private health insurance, so he didn't qualify for the government health insurance, which I had to fight 2 years for that too. My private health insurance only covered a limited amount of hours of therapies. So I was paying $2,000 out of pocket every single month for additional therapy in his school at SPEN and at my house because I needed to learn everything that these therapists were doing. So they were coming to my house 3 to 4 days a week, doing 1 hour to 2 hours of therapy for my son. Me and everybody in my household sat right next to the therapist so that as soon as she left, everything she was doing, we was doing it too. And then when I learned about my son's auditory sensitivity, because they gave him sound canceling earmuffs, and I read this book. It's a shame I can't remember it, but it was written by a Japanese 16-year-old child who's nonverbal. He wrote an entire book about what it's like to be an autistic person. That's when I realized instead of conforming and making him feel comfortable, I needed to make him uncomfortable as much as possible. Regardless of a child's condition, all human beings have the ability to adapt to their environment. All of us. So the sound canceling earmuffs, I broke them. I bought a Bose radio for my kitchen, turned it on, threw the remote control out. I turned the television on in my living room, threw the remote control out. Every single day he walked in the house, he had to deal with the sound from the radio and the sound from the television all day long. Of course, he would cry, he would hide, he would stomp. My ex-husband would, why are you doing this to our son? You're making him miserable. I said, he will adapt. After a couple months, he adapted.
Yep.
The diapers. Sorry, he hates when I talk about it. He was in diapers until he was 6 years old. I was unwilling to accept that. That was a whole lot of combating, not just with his father, but with the doctor too. I would take the diapers, put them in the trunk of my car, and take them to work with me. Now you got no diapers. What are you gonna do? You know, his issue, he could utilize the facilities to urinate, but he wouldn't defecate in a bathroom. He had to use a diaper for that. And I kept fighting with him, fighting with his dad, fighting with the doctor. I'm not going to keep allowing this to go. And one day, it was like a switch flipped in his back. He started using the bathroom. He was nonverbal until he was 4. So for a full year and a half after his diagnosis, he still wasn't speaking. One day, we were walking the dog, and he started yelling at the dog just like us. And then he came into the house, and Toy Story was his favorite movie. He stood in the middle of the living room floor and recited every single word, and even reacted like with the mannerisms of the movie. And he put on a full-on show of the whole entire movie of Toy Story from beginning to end. So then I knew he could talk, but I understood that he was more likely to say things that were being repeated to him. So then everything that I would say to him, I would say at least 3 times. Go put this in the trash, go put this in the trash, go put this in the trash. And then I would watch him whisper it to himself as he went and put it in the trash. Even now today with my son, I have to give him instructions, no more than 3 instructions at a time. But I'm going to repeat it. I'm going to repeat it. I'm going to repeat it. Now, he might mix one with the other, but he's going to get it done. He went to Pollock Elementary School in Northeast Philadelphia, which is a public school. At the time, it was one of the only schools in Philadelphia that has an autism-only wing. But more importantly, they offer integrated classes. My family members and I raised $50,000 to outfit all the autistic classes with sensory toys and material. They have chairs there that allow the children to wiggle and to bounce their feet on like these rubber band bandages that go around their desks. The armrests move. They have compression tubes. They had tablets that speak for the children. I don't advocate for those actually, because I noticed when my son started using one, he wasn't even trying to talk to me. So I took the tablet away. Also, electronic devices, I'm not really a fan of that, not just for autistic children, but even atypical children. When anybody is constantly experiencing things at a close-up range in front of their face at a higher than normal speed, but your body is not moving and the world around you is not moving, what happens when you remove that device? Your brain is still moving at the speed of the device. Your brain cannot slow down because it's used to seeing everything at a high rate of speed. So we got to get these children, not just autistic children, you got to get them from in front of these devices. And then they become addicted to them. You can't get them to let them go. At our boxing gym, we are no phone, no tablet zone. I even have a jammer on our Wi-Fi so that when you come in there, your phone slow down. Yes, we do. We do not allow any children to use any electronic devices inside of our boxing gym. So my son, when he was 7 years old, by this point he was speaking and he was verbal and everything like that. Pollock Elementary School was helping him substantially. After 2 years of fighting for the government health insurance, I was finally approved. So then he was able to get, for free, he was able to get therapies at home and in school, and things started to get better. But when he was 7 years old, we experienced a significant amount of transition in our household. I decided to end a 20-year marriage. I was diagnosed with breast cancer, and my brother, who was our closest family member, passed away. All of this happened within less than a year time period. My son started to regress. If any of you are familiar with autism, is when they wake up one day and he's putting his shoes on the wrong feet again. He's forgotten how to tie his shoes. He started to show self-mutilation behaviors again. My son was never aggressive to other people, but he would get frustrated because he couldn't communicate, so he would hit himself and hurt himself out of frustration. And I was having a difficult time controlling him because I was undergoing breast cancer surgeries and I was very weak from chemotherapy drugs and stuff. So I tried a kickboxing dojo. The place was too small. As soon as he went in there, he's banging his ears. I want to go home. He didn't want to be there. We also tried a karate studio. Same thing. We visited this ran down, dilapidated boxing gym in Frankfurt, in Philadelphia. The place was a mess. If you ever familiar with Ridiculously Fit, but the vastness of the space allowed my son to walk in there and feel comfortable right away. And he fell in love with a speed bag the first time we walked in there. And I realized it was the repetition of the motion of hitting the speed bag, because he's a repeater. They have repetitive behaviors, language and behaviors and so forth. He fell in love with boxing right away. I signed him up for their kids class plus private lessons. Within about 2 months, he started speaking again. He was tying his shoes again, putting his shoes on the right feet again. He even was becoming social with the other children in the boxing class. So I saw that it was helping him in a way that I couldn't. He took up boxing lessons for 2.5 years, never to compete, never sparred or anything, just training and being amongst other children. The pandemic hit, and the gym shut down. And right before the gym had shut down for the pandemic, though, when he was in 6th grade, he had just 5th grade. He started integrated classes. And I encourage other parents of autistic kids to consider not keeping them in special development classes for a lifetime. Because they're mimics, if you put them around atypical children, they're more likely to start to mimic atypical behaviors. If you keep them around developmentally delayed children, they will continue to display those behaviors. So I had him pulled out of his autistic class for reading, mathematics, because to me those were the most vital subjects. And I started to see his behavior changing. Before you know it, he didn't need his one-on-one. He had a one-on-one and a TSS. He was the only kid in his school that had 2 people following him around every day, just taking care of him. And I had situations where I visited the school during a pop-up visit, and I caught them trying to utilize his resources for other classes. I complained to the principal, didn't feel like I was getting heard, filed a complaint with the state special education board, had the state come from Harrisburg to his school and let them know the severity of it, and if they did it again, the school would lose all of their special education resources. I had to fight to that degree for him to get the resources that I already advocated for him. They took care of it. He had his one-on-one back, his TSS back, dedicated to him, and I do pop-up visits at the school. If I don't see those 2 people next to him, we got a problem. After the pandemic occurred and his gym shut down, he was driving me crazy at home. I'm buying everything I can from Amazon, filling up my basement with equipment to give him things to punch on. He's popping the bags. It wasn't enough. So as soon as things started to open up, I took him to 2 other boxing gyms. He kept saying, "Mommy, this is not my gym. This is not my gym. This is not my gym, Mom. I don't want to be here. I don't want to go here. I hate it. It's not my gym." One night I woke up. I said, "You know what? I'm going to make it his gym." 2 weeks later, I had the keys to the building. I bought the building, gifted it to him, bought the business, gifted it to him, spent 2 months renovating the whole place. Now we have central air, we have heat, painted it, did the floors, refurbished the ring and everything. And on October 24th, 2020, that was our grand opening day, and he was gifted with his boxing gym.
So let me take a pause for the cause, because that was a lot. That's a lot. And what you just described was the determination of a parent to do whatever was needed for your child.
Absolutely.
It became clear halfway through what you were speaking about, though, that you had resources that the average person does not
Yes,
have.
I emphasize that.
And I don't want people to feel like they can't get the same results for their children if they don't have those kinds of resources. And you also took strident steps that, peer, and I don't know if I would have taken away this auditory stuff, I don't know. So what is the message you want to leave with the people here in 30 seconds on this? Because I want to talk to him.
Yes.
I want to talk to him.
My greatest resource is my persistence.
Yeah.
And also the level of not only love, but unwavering commitment that I have to my son's success. I was not willing to accept no. Like that's not going to happen. you know. And I just push forward, and even today I push forward for my son. When he graduated from 8th grade 2 years ago, he received an award from the governor's office for being a great citizen, and several other awards in his school. He goes to all atypical classes. He's a 10th grader at Abington High School, and he has all atypical classes. He does not have any special education classes. Yeah, he's, for the past 5 years, he doesn't just own the gym in name. He spends 5 to 7 days a week. One of our boxing trainers is here. Two-time world title holding champion, Robert Bam Bam Hines, right there with the white shirt. He's one of our trainers from the boxing gym.
Where's the gym located?
It's in Frankfurt, right near the intersection of Frankfurt and Unity. For those of you familiar with the old PGW building on Frankfurt Avenue, we're directly next door. And he's owned the gym for the past 5 years. He's in there cleaning and operating and meeting people and doing an introductory speech, which we rehearsed many times over the years, so he memorizes all the accolades of the gym. We are the most awarded boxing gym in the city of Philadelphia. We've won the Humanitarian Gym of the Year 3 times in a row from the USA Boxing Association. Last year, we won Gym of the Year from USA Boxing. My son has won from the International Boxing Federation Award for being the youngest gym owner in the world at 10 years old, and he's the first ever autistic gym owner in the world. And we're very proud of that. We're certified by the Center for Autism. So myself and our trainers are trained by the trainers from Center for Autism, so we're qualified to work with children and adults who have Down syndrome, autism,
What age?
3 years old. We have taught children how to speak at my gym, and I'm not like...
Oh, listen, I don't even know where to, how much time do we have left, Shakila?
Not a lot.
Okay, that's what I got like 2 minutes. We are, we really, yes.
I wanted to respond to one quick thing that you asked Andrea regarding the resources piece, because I think folks can think that as an elected official, you have all these resources, but at the end of the day, I work in public service, and I've worked in public service for 25 years. And we talked about the fear earlier, so I was not aware of how I could get additional resources and help for my son until I went to the Institute for Reading program at Drexel University.
Yeah.
And Shakila was there, and I was going to every table, including hers. And she told me then, she said, you need to do this, and you need to get an attorney, you need to, and I was like, I don't know about that. Well, at any rate, talk about the fear. I spoke to a friend. So my husband's college roommate, wife, is an educator. I spoke to her about my son's situation at the Roots picnic of all places. And it was there that she told me their story and said, here are the steps you need to take. She said, we have to do all of these things for our son because their son is also on the autism wheel. And she said, we have all of these resources for therapy. And she told me the amount, and I was like, well, how did you do that? And she said, well, we had to get an attorney. Yeah. So I will say that if you feel as though your child is not receiving services that they are supposed to be provided, don't be afraid to reach out and get an educational attorney who can help you navigate the system, because that's what ultimately we needed to do, and it's still in process of. And because of some of the things that we're even going through, I can't publicly talk about some of the resources that have been offered to my son as a result of that. But I will tell you, I'm very happy that we went through that process, and I urge other families and parents to do the same.
Yeah, so I started this conversation by saying that if you harm a child, you'll never see me coming. I've been working in education for a long, long time. I know the laws around chapter 16 and chapter 14. Most parents don't know those laws, and they are strident, and they give you everything that you could possibly need for your child, but most school districts will not tell you. Ma'am, I sat on the Abington School Board for 8 years. Lived in Abington for 30. That woman over there was the head of the English department that helped many, many children in Abington. We started programs. She started a program for the boys and then for the girls. We fought like hell so you could sit here today and have the conversation that you're having. So there were many parents that I was advocating for about we sued Abington, Lower Marion, Upper Duncan. It got to the point where when they saw me walking in the room, they went and got their lawyer. something that I don't ever talk about. But to hear you say that brings tears to my eyes, because I'm about to tell Denise, look what we done did. Because they literally tried to kill us. Now it's a little bit better. I won't say it's like all the way there.
Yes, he went to Philadelphia Public School from K to 8,
Mhm.
Pollock Elementary School.
Mhm.
We moved to Abington so he could go to Abington High School.
Absolutely.
Because there
Yeah.
wasn't any high schools in the city of Philadelphia, public or private, that had any level of
Yeah.
resources. And despite the fact that he's in all atypical classes, I have to be prepared for an instance of regression with him. So if a school doesn't have resources and he regresses, then here I am back at square one, fighting and advocating and moving him somewhere.
Yeah.
And autistic people do not like change.
Yeah.
So I can't bounce him from school to school. That's why he was at Pollock from K all the way through 8th grade. We moved to Abington so he could go to Abington High School.
Yeah.
And not just for resources, but the safety of the environment. As Philadelphians, we're all aware of what's going on in these high schools. And my son being a public figure for the sport of boxing it's very prominent. We've been on Fox 29 and many different media outlets. We even experienced sometimes teenagers in the grocery store that would say, "Oh, you're the boy that boxes? Let me see." He's autistic. He doesn't understand playing around. So if you put your hands up to him, he's going to react. He's prepared to allow you to see what it's like to undergo 8 years of boxing instruction. So, but Abington High School is a less aggressive environment. It's not an environment where I have to worry about him getting into fights, and more importantly, gun violence. Because the kids nowadays, when they know he can protect himself with his hands, they won't even try him with his hands. They'll go straight to the guns. So I had to do what I had to do and relocate for my son to be in a safer high school environment.
I took my first cousin, I made her move her child out of Philadelphia to Abington too. And we worked through that. There are whole programs in Abington for children under autism wheels. So that's a beautiful. All right, so here's the deal. We are done. So here's what I'm gonna do for you. Here's what I'm gonna do for you. We're out of time and they've got to close the building. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm committing to putting you on my season 4 podcast so we can have a full conversation. And King, I promise that you will get to talk, okay? Okay, because you're looking at my son, but I promise you'll get to talk. And then the other thing that I'm going to do is have you on my morning show so that they can call in and ask all the questions. Because there were so many nuggets dropped. And I don't want it to be lost in the sauce. So we're going to do that within the next week and a half for the live broadcast. And then my producer will reach out to you for the podcast. Because this is important, right? 1 in 49 children are diagnosed on the autism wheel. 1 in 49. This is no joke. So most of us have someone in our families that's dealing with it. So this mom is doing what she's doing. I literally also want you to know, once we start talking, you're going to get a lot of call about children coming to that gym to get some support, to work out their feelings, all of that, so we can talk through all of that. So we'll ask you to tell us what your cost is, all of that, so that the children can do. I want you all, this needed to be, yes, Denise?
No, can we have last words from all of your guests?
Hold on.
Just one sentence. I just
Hold
want
on.
everybody to speak.
Hold on, mamas. Hold on. Because it's now 4:04, you know I am never behind schedule. And we're 4 minutes behind schedule, so we'll have to navigate and work this out. Journey, I want to thank you because you were the first person that I had a dialogue with, and we thought you would need your father. You didn't need your father, so I want to thank you and appreciate you and let you know that I see you. And so we're going to have a dialogue with you too. Okay, we're going to, so just reach out with me before we end, because this is the conversation that needs to go. I don't have time for last words because she's looking at me.
No.
What do you need?
It's okay. I like that as a closing segment.
Thank you. Okay,
So you
okay.
guys, 1 minute, each person can have
And I do mean 1 minute. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 of us. 1 minute, starting with you, sir.
Well, closing remarks, this is a wonderful opportunity, and hearing, we need to do this more often where parents with children with autism get to have these conversations because it stirred up a lot. And so one thing I just want to back up is there might not be resources, but I was just as persistent as you were. And I didn't have all the resources, but I would stay up. I would knock on doors. I would sleep on sidewalks. I would get answers. Because just like you with your counterpart, it was difficult for his mother and his mother's family to accept these things. So I had to fight for that. And even till this day, we moved to the Delaware County School District to get him better services because we had to move out of Philadelphia. And so I did everything I could, I mean, just to buy a house out there. And so what I would say and leave with everybody is persistence is always the key. Persistence is always the key, and you will always find an answer.
Thank you so much. Want to add anything, Joey? You want to add anything? You cool? You want to add anything? You want to add anything? Say something, Joey.
Okay, I'm cool.
You're cool.
If you're cool, then I'm cool, and we're cool. All right.
Well, thank you again, Shaquila, for organizing this conversation, and Andrea Lawful Sanders, the Andrea Lawful Sanders, for navigating this conversation with all of us. And I just want each and every one of you to know on the panel that I've been inspired by everything you've shared. Because this is my very first time sharing about my son, it was really helpful to hear your feedback about what you all have gone through and what you've had to do on behalf of your children. But I guess we could leave with, and I'll say two things. One, the importance of ensuring that we're doing everything we can to advocate for our kids. And I didn't get into that part of it, but I had to do the same thing. I was paying out of pocket for my kids to go to a reading camp last year as well. That was $1,000 a month. And again, people think, oh, she's an elected official, that's fine. We're public servants, we work in public service. The other thing that I take from this that really was disheartening to hear as a legislator is that everyone felt as though they had to leave the city in order to get service. So for me, I take that back with me to City Hall and back with me to City Council as we work with the School District of Philadelphia and navigate to ensure that we're providing all we can to our young people in Philly. Our residents should not feel as though they need to leave the city of Philadelphia in order to get good quality service and the best service for our young people. So I'm going to take that with me. I internalize that, and I promise that I'm going to take that back to the School District of Philadelphia, because even though we're going through this process, my kids are in public school, and my oldest daughter graduated from public school. And I just have to share this real quick. My oldest daughter, she came to me when she was 3. She's my husband's daughter, but she is my daughter. I raised her since she was a baby. And when she came to us, she wasn't reading as well, and she went through public school all of her academic career, and now she is in her 2nd year at the North Carolina A&T State University. Aggie Mom. She's on the Dean's List, National Honor Society, and she is studying to be a civil engineer, and she's a public school graduate. So I just have to say that when you have persistence, you have family support, it can work. So I tell you that I bring all of this experience with me, and I will take it back in the work that we continue to do, and I'm going to continue to fight for my baby boy. So thank you.
I just want to thank everybody. I want to thank you, ma'am, for inviting us, and Ms. Strawberry, all of the organizers of the event. My last words would be stop protecting your children. And yes, I said it just like that. Stop protecting your children and equip them with the tools to protect themselves. Because if you expect them to live an independent life, they have to be prepared for a life without you. Autistic people are very attracted to bodies of water. The majority of autistic people who die in a body of water. They drown. You can look this up, you can Google it and research it. So at 4 years old actually, I put my son in 2 years of swim lessons. He can swim in the ocean, he surfs, boogie boards, and jumps off of boats and everything else. Him learning how to box is so that he can protect himself physically out here in this world when he's without me. He's a public speaker. This is now his 6th speaking engagement. He knows how to use his voice to articulate his thoughts, his feelings. He is not shy. He does not waver. If you visit our Instagram page, which is kingdom_boxing, you will see clippings of him being interviewed by media and news outlets, within which I insist that he is interviewed alone, not with me. He speaks for himself. Every single speaking engagement, he writes his own speeches. Stop protecting your children. Teach them how to protect themselves.
King. I appreciate. Huh?
It's the sensory. They got to get that handshake just right. He got to feel it.
I thank everyone, and this has been a big opportunity for me as an entrepreneur, and yeah, I appreciate everyone. And
And I just want to say, he's an entrepreneur because a long time ago, I had to accept the fact that he probably would never have an opportunity to maybe be a doctor or a lawyer. And I'm not saying that can't still be his future. But for a long time, I didn't really see a future for him. I'll be honest with you. So I said, if I can't teach him how to be a doctor, a lawyer, or maybe even an accountant like myself, I can teach him how to make some money. That I know how to do. So he's been an entrepreneur since he was 10 years old, and now he owns 5 businesses.
Go ahead, Daniel. Last but not least.
Yeah, I don't even know what to say at the moment.
Daniel, speechless?
I'm just saying, because really, I don't think you have to worry about him when you're gone, because mainly because I'm pretty sure you might get back up if he's in So like, that's fearless. No, but I'm joking, but for real, you do need to be able to, to jump out there like that. So this is what I'm gonna say. I am 2 different people, right? Not that I hear somebody else say something in my head. I'm not saying that. I'm saying that I am someone who failed multiple times in school, who was unable to really get, to really assimilate. I'm somebody who was raised in a single parent home by a mother who was doing the best that she can, latchkey kid. And yeah, there was bullies, there was all kinds of other things that were going on. And I am that person. I am that person who lived in a place where the majority of the population was at or below the poverty line. And by all rights and purposes, I should be dead or in jail or both. But God is really, really, really important and really, really, really powerful. And I'm going to tell you, I am also, I'm a retired disabled vet. Of course, you can't do the Army 21 years and then not get something broke on you. So, I'm a vet. I am a suburbanite, middle class father of 6.
You better go ahead.
And my wife and I started a business, and just advocating for and just being able to work with organizations, nonprofits and churches that want to develop curriculum and help other people out. We want to tell other people's stories. I'm also I'm a college graduate, and I am also and right now I'm getting my master's to become a licensed marriage and family therapist. Before I go and get my license, my MDiv, Master's in Divinity, right? And so I plan on being in school for a while. I want to tell you something. Every single solitary time I went through training in the military, every time I went through a school, every time that I go to school now, I have to look myself in the face, I look in the mirror and convince myself and tell myself and challenge myself to say, you're not that dumb little boy who couldn't make it. And it's hard. It really is hard, but it's possible. And with all of those things, I'm going to tell you right now, like, I didn't even know, I felt that emotion myself. To be so close to be back in my city, right? And to be so close where some of those things happen and transpire, but to be sitting here like this is a truly powerful moment. And it all goes back to my Heavenly Father. I'm also a licensed minister. I forgot that. I'm wearing a lot of hats. But that's the whole point, right? That's the whole thing. Like, I feel like I'm an example of what can happen when you have people who advocate for you, when you have people who fight for you, when you're willing to fight yourself. And I didn't give up. And I don't want anybody in here to give up. It's a steady fight. So please continue to do that.
Yeah.
All right?
Thank you so much. Thank you to all of you. Danielle, I want to make you aware, I'm grateful for what you just shared, because quite like King's mom, my husband's mother would not let him be treated differently. Right. And so today he's building underwater robots for the U.S. Navy, quietly. So you can do what you want to do. She was determined he was just not going to be treated differently, and she pushed him to be who he is today. So thank you all so much for sitting. Yes. Thank you all so much for sitting through this and being a part of it. I feel like this is just the very beginning, because this feels like a 10-part series. That's how we're going to make it do what it does, all right? Thank you all so much.